Call this meeting to order, please. Stand for a moment of silence. And as we do, please try to remember Coach Rodriguez from Lobos, passed away this weekend. Thank you. Ms. Pena.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Good job.
Let the record indicate everybody is present today. Okay. Number 5, recommend approval of the agenda for special board meeting on August the 12th, 2009 with any corrections, deletions.
As written, sir.
As written. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Cortez. I have a second.
Second.
Second, Ms. Pena. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, general function, Pat.
Superintendent's report, A, conference presentation. 1, presentation by the Employee Insurance Committee Chairman.
Mr. Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I know that the EIC has been working back and forth. I think at our last meeting that we had, our board insurance meeting, we had asked the Employee Insurance Committee to get back, ask questions, and have some comments and deliver back to the board about what they have met about. Mr. Tolman, the chairman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Springston, board. Yes, we've met a number of times together as an employee insurance committee. We've seen the presentations similar to the ones that you all saw at the board insurance meeting. Along with that and time with our consultant, Mr. Looney, we evaluated the plans that came to us. We evaluated them under the cost of the plans, presentation, the prescription, the wellness, personnel, and run-on costs. And with those factors, we are recommending that we move to mutual assurance.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mr. Springton?
I've got a question, Mr.
Yes,
When you say you recommend, I understand there was a unanimous vote. How many members were present in that unanimous vote to recommend what you just mentioned?
There was 8 of us that voted.
8 members, 8 voting members out of how many in the committee?
Approximately 60.
So 8 members are voting for to recommend a carrier to represent or to serve as 7,000 plus employees. That just doesn't quite seem like it's a good representation, though. Even if all 60 members were present, it's a small number, but of course you can only have a committee so big. But to have 8 members vote, I have a bit of a problem with that.
thank you, sir.
Mr. Aguilar,
Peña.
can you tell me what happened to the other 52?
I'm assuming that it was a timing issue. We had planned on having these meetings and these discussions right beginning of June, but due to some due to a change of our consultant, that threw our schedule off, and so we had to hold meetings over the summer. And I don't know if employees just didn't check their emails. Everybody was invited to all of these meetings.
May I ask you, you only communicate via the internet email? No one has a phone, a list where you pick up and literally call the other human being to make sure they know there is a meeting for something as crucial and important as this?
No, ma'am. Usually everything is done via email.
So you're telling me that if you didn't make, because there's days that I am so swamped with dealing with a person as opposed to a machine. I go a day or two without looking at that because I just have a lot of things on my plate. So I have a huge problem that 8 people out of 60 were the only ones that voted for something as important as this to represent all the employees in this district. That is wrong. Can't find any other word other than that's wrong. Completely and totally unacceptable in my eyes. And it's nothing personal against
Sure,
you.
I understand.
Just the way the system has been set up. There has to be some kind of backup, especially in summer. Who's in charge of this committee?
Usually everything gets, well,
Do we have a chairperson?
huh?
Do we have a chairperson or someone that kind of leads?
Yes, usually I represent the employees.
You've never thought of getting a phone list, being summer, people don't look at their computers, and believe it or not, some people don't have internet at home. They really, a lot of them don't. I didn't have it till my kids were in high school because I didn't want them on the internet. So that's the best way to solve internet problems. Don't have it at home. A master list, a phone where you can have a few people help you, call these people, text them. Everyone walks around with their phone attached to their hip. The majority of us have text. I have no internet on my phone. I just don't believe in that. But a text message. So yes, Mr. President, I have a huge problem because this is not a vote that includes all the employees. This is not proper representation of the district employees, not by far.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. Cortez, any response?
Did you guys feel you got the appropriate information you needed? I mean, with regards to all the different vendors. How many meetings? You said you had several meetings. How many meetings were there?
I believe there was 4 meetings on just this,
Well,
just the recommendations.
I mean, just going back from recollection, obviously at the last meeting was when you guys actually had to vote on it, right?
Yeah,
that would
the
be-
last
that was-
meeting we had,
There was 8 members there. Prior to that,
yeah, actually we had a couple
what
more.
was the attendance at the previous meetings?
I think the largest one we had at the, was at the presentations over the summer, and that was 40, about 40, 45.
At the one where they gave the presentations?
Huh? I think it was that low? 7? Oh, I don't know who all the other people were then. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm being corrected there that there was about 20 or so at the presentations.
And do you guys feel you received all the adequate information that
Yes.
you needed to make this?
Yes, we had, after the presentations, we, again via email, asked for questions from the committee members. We compiled those questions, gave them to the consultant who we felt would be prepared to answer those. And that was our last meeting that we had, was with the consultant to go through those questions.
They answered all the questions to the committee's satisfaction?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, they did, yes. We spent several hours there.
I have a question.
Size. Mr. Colunga?
I also wanted to confirm that the questions asked by the committee represent the experience of the committee from the past that has dealt with previous consultants, that the categories of the information have been in-depth in covering the important issues related to employees?
Yes. As far as the questions go, we got detailed information. The only question that couldn't be answered in detail were some of the finances.
Mr. Aguilar? Oh,
Go ahead, Ms. Peña.
a quick question. The employee insurance that we have now, when is that due to expire? October, is it October 09?
Ms. Strington?
When is this insurance policy up for expiration?
October 1st, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Okay, and see, I'm having a huge problem that 8 people are going to decide on something that affects the masses. And if I am going against the masses here now, then so be it, because we need to do what's right for the employees. And I'm going to be very frank with you guys. I've received all sorts of emails. That's what I do at 2 or 3 in the morning. Look at all my emails after I'm done with my kids and my family. And I've had a lot of concern with people saying they weren't given ample time because they were not aware of meetings. I don't know how true that was, so I sit here and listen today, and from what you have said, those are correct emails. Those are true facts. I'm just wondering what the problem would be that here we are in August, it expires in October, that we table till we get this committee together as a whole, because the masses are crying out. They're crying out. And at a risk of sounding like we're trying to do something fishy and shove it down people's throat and nobody notice, I need the masses to speak out, because that's who we represent. When the day is done, that's the only thing you have left, what you represented and how proper you represent it. Because you're a teacher, Mr. Tolman, am I correct?
Actually, an assistant principal now.
Well, you have teaching
Yes, I do.
credentials. And it wouldn't be fair if you had a class of 30 and you made a decision one day and only spoke with maybe 5 of your students, when what you did was going to affect all 30, but something happened and you couldn't get a hold of the other. You would kind of say, well, let me wait till I make sure this is what the rest of the group represents. Would that be a fair assumption to say that as a teacher, you want to work like that to make sure you get the proper picture and the proper answer and make sure that everyone's on the same page, not just have 8 people put it through? I'm just having a lot of problem with 8 out of 60.
I understand. I understand your concerns, and the best way I can answer this, several of us have been on this committee for several years. We are here simply to advise you on what we feel would be in the best interests of all of the employees. We do have several discussions, though we don't have, this time we didn't have representation from transportation, maintenance, or custodians. We do look at those employees as well and take those considerations into our recommendation.
Mr. Sines?
Doug, what was the basis for your all's recommendation? In other words, what information did you receive? What conclusions did you all arrive from the information received that came up with a basis for y'all's recommendation?
We looked at, again, we looked at some of the major things that would impact us. Obviously, there's a cost issue involved. And so, you know, we took that into consideration. That's always a big thing, is cost to the district. We also looked at the different packages as far as the presentations went. That was that was another one of the large meetings with all the presenters.
So could you be more specific? You know, the cost, for example, what about it? Could you be a little more specific?
Dr.
Well-
Escobedo, would you please address the chair? Thank you, sir.
We looked at the actual TPA costs and had those ranked for us as far as lowest to highest, because, I mean, realistically speaking, we're looking at TPA services. These are the services that are being provided pretty much just keep track of all the records and transactions. And as all of the companies stated, they can all do that. So what separated them, and I believe it was a difference of about $1.2, $1.3 million between the lowest and the highest, is the cost for those services. So based on those costs, we ranked.
Mr. President? I think he is. He paused like this is the end. I have numerous questions and concerns, and I'm going to tell you why, gentlemen, because we are a board, and it is extremely important that we look at this very seriously, and I'm going to tell you why. Because if it takes for me to step up to the plate and to continue to work with the agency that I've been working with, because there's too many red flags. There's too many red flags on this contract. And I'm going to tell you, it is our obligation as a board to make sure that what is provided to us, it is the correct information. Let me tell you
Ms. Garcia,
that
would you please address the red flags to the board?
Yes,
If
I
there's
will,
so
sir.
many,
Yes,
please
yes,
address
I will,
those
and
red
I'm going to
flags.
go over them, sir, because I don't know if you've, I'm very much concerned, and I think we've already done, this board has been in several situations where it's costing taxpayers' dollars too much money, and I don't want for this board to continue to make that mistake. So let's work together, let's look at the issues. I've asked for information. As a board member, it is my responsibility to question things and to see that the things that are given to me are correct. I've asked for the third quarter, haven't gotten the third quarter report. How could somebody make a decision without a second quarter report and without a third quarter report? When I pick up those numbers, I'm going to take them to an expert that I've been working with, because that expert is working with an agency that's working with me. And I think Ms. Peña understands red flags, don't you, Ms. Peña? You worked for the law enforcement before?
Yes,
and
Ms.
you're familiar
Garcia,
with that?
I do, and this just does not sit well with me at all. Not one bit. I just have a little problem because I don't have enough information.
Can you guys be more specific what
Okay.
red flags we're talking
Guys,
about?
just a minute.
The third
Let's address
quarter,
the chair so we can all not be talking at the same time, please.
the third quarter report was not given to me. And how can our consultant be making a decision based without a third quarter report? When he gave us this report thoroughly, he literally just bashes the company left and right that we have. I have a problem. Mr. Looney stated that he didn't know why Penley was not the consultant. Well, Penley and Looney know each other very well. As you see the emails, I think they discussed the issue a while back together. And he was here at the last meeting and pretended that he didn't know Penley, or he didn't know why Penley was no longer the consultant. I also have a problem because in the past, and I sat back there, and it was a while back, Mr. Looney stated that we needed an agent of record, that it was the law. Well, I called the Texas Department of Insurance and another expert that I've been working with for the past 3 months, and that is not true. So how can I trust a consultant to tell me and give me a report that this is the best thing for us to vote on? I don't think any of us are I don't think Ms. Peña's ready. I'm not ready. I think that I've seen information that I would rather not share with the public at this time. This is a $38 million contract. I think that we're going to find ourselves in a situation where we're going to get sued. I can assure you that I see it coming. And if we don't seem to care about taxpayers' dollars and hiring more attorneys to represent us, because we're going to end up making the wrong move. First of all, as soon as I came on this board, there was a rush about moving on the contract for the insurance. That was priority. And I found it very uncomfortable knowing that I was going to come into this situation. But I'm going to tell you, do I have a problem making a decision? No, I don't. But I'm going to make a decision based on facts, based on reports that make sense. And if somebody's giving me a report, for instance, complaining about the services of I think there's a young lady that works here, and she oversees the business of the insurance, of the claims and complaints or questions that employees have. When I see here that it says on-site services available 2 to 3 hours a week, that is a lie. That is a blatant lie, because I have done the research. And I'm not going to pretend here that I don't know what's going on, because I know what's going on. And if this board or previous boards have been lied to by consultants, I am not going to stand here, sit here, and wait for somebody to tell me, it's okay, just vote on it, because that's not the case here. We have 7,000 plus employees that we need to take care of. And if our insurance committee felt uncomfortable because there was a report that was not given to them, I feel the same way too. Because I was requesting for this report from administrating for almost a month, sir. And I think they kept going back at it like it's not ready, it's not ready. I asked for administration to tell me why they hadn't met with the insurance company on the quarterly reports. Where's the administrator for insurance? Is he available today? Okay, Mr. President, I want you to understand that I can send you those emails. And Is it correct, Mr. Springston, that I've been going back and forth at it day after day after day? Now, I feel that it's an insult to the community when they elect an official, and me as an elected official, I'm not getting the information, but yet other officials, when they ask for information, it's given to them. That's a little unfair, because I was asked by an insurance committee member, what do you mean you're not getting the reports? Well, I haven't gotten it. Have you gotten it? No, I haven't gotten it either. So what does that tell me? What would that tell you, Ms. Peña? Can you answer me, please?
That tells me that I am not considered, I'm not in the loop, and I represent the masses just like the rest of us. And I'm going to be very blatant when I say there are things that the law says that I should have received in my hand to make appropriate decisions to this day. I haven't gotten them.
Ms. Peña,
I haven't gotten them.
thank you. Ms. Garcia, so your red flag is that Mr. Looney lied to you.
Well, a lot
No,
of these-
you said somebody they lied to you. Secondly, that our employees lied to you and refused to give you the information that you needed.
Not the employees. Well, the administration. I'm not
Well,
going to, you know.
that's the
Yes,
employees
bottom
that, the insurance committee, right? And of course, and no one else the board members got any information. Those are your 3 flags that you're talking about?
No, there's more than 3 flags. And let me,
Well,
let me,
okay,
Mr. President.
let me allow Mr. Sayas. You have 5 minutes already on that
No,
item.
Mr. President, there's no time limit here because I think this is a crucial
Order.
decision.
Mr. Sayas?
Give us the other red flags I'd like to hear.
Let me, thank you, Mr. Sayas.
Just the red flags.
No, I need the red flag to be answered by our health insurance, because it is my understanding that those reports were ready or are ready, and they have not been given to us, sir. How can we be making a decision on numbers that they did not consider on the bid? How can somebody be putting numbers together when you don't even have the report from the insurance company that's providing us a service?
There's Mr. Looney.
Mr. Looney,
Let
can
him
you step
sit
up
up
to the plate, please?
and answer some of those
Because
questions.
I think you're still getting paid for the consultation fees.
Mr. Looney, are you willing, please,
I think he should, not willing,
Sir.
he should.
just please wait until you address Mrs. Garcia. Thank you, sir. If we have any more questions, we'll call you, sir. Mr. Olin. Mr. Looney?
If it's okay with you, Mr. Aguilar, I think that my comments come at the end of this. Do you have 2 or 3 other items that you want to cover first?
Mr. Aguilar.
Well, this is only a conference, so actually, I think we better wait until we get to the item itself. So I think the presentation is over, Mr. Sprinton, and let's go with the next item. So we'll wait for you. We'll call it.
Ms. Garcia, don't forget your flags, please.
I'm sorry?
Oh, sir, you don't
the
have to remind
flags.
me not to forget
Yes.
the flags. I have my flags in all these paperwork.
And
Huh? That was
Item
uncalled
2.
for. And he's providing us a service.
Item 2, recommend to renew RFP 09050 for basic life and AD&D insurance to ING for the BISD self-insured group health plan.
Mr. Sprinton on this item, please. Give us
Thank
a
you,
break.
Mr. President. This is our benefit that we give to all of our employees on accidental death, and I believe it's the $15,000 that the district pays for, $2 and some cents. At any time that an accident happens, that we do want to take care of our employees in that fashion. As Mr. Reese, any comments?
See the dollar amount that they're being charged, and it seems to be very, very reasonable.
Mr. President, who's the
Anyone?
agent of record?
Anyone else?
Question.
Mr. Dr. Scoville?
I'm assuming the committee was okay with this item, and I mean, the presentation didn't tell us much and didn't even touch on these items. Was the Employee Insurance Committee okay with this item?
Mr. Sprinton?
Mr. Whittemore, can you address this part for me, please? Thank you.
Oh, he was high.
President Aguilar, Interim Superintendent Springsteen, members of the board. This item was recommended for renewal by the prior consultant, also confirmed with the current. It is a very competitive rate. It was a 3-year rate guarantee from last year when we went out for proposals for the stop loss of life and AD&D. More importantly, we really evaluated the service that came in during the accidents that we had this year and the way they were really able to service the beneficiaries, ma'am.
I have a question, Mr. President. Who's the agent of record for this item?
This one, I believe it is Cavazos Insurance.
And it's okay I mean, they're recommending the agent of record to be Mr. Cavazos again.
Well, again, this is just a renewal, ma'am.
Okay, so how long has this agent of record been in existence with this bid?
Since last year, ma'am. This is a renewal from last year's bid.
But it's a 3-year.
It's a 3-year rate guarantee. We
Well,
bring it to
that's
you
my
each year.
question. But he's been there for?
Last year, ma'am.
Okay.
Anyone else?
In our packet on page 8, we have proposed ranking form, third-party administrative services for BISD self-funded workers' compensation program. Is that in relation to this?
No, so this is a separate item.
Okay.
Mr. President, how much does the agent of record get?
Anyone else? This time, do we come back to you? Mr. Cortez?
No, I don't have any questions on this item, sir.
Dana? Joe?
I have just a question, for the superintendent. Is this your recommendation for the accidental death insurance to award this to ING?
Yes, sir. It is a renewal, and it has been a good rate, and it has been something that has worked out positive for our faculty, our staff, and members of our district.
Accept the recommendation.
Mr. Aguilar.
Ms. Garcia was next.
Oh, go ahead.
You had a question?
Can somebody tell me how much this agent of record gets paid?
I do not have that information with me, ma'am, but I will be more than happy to put it for this specific item into the Friday letter.
You know, I have a problem, Mr. President, because I asked for this information. And if I'm going to make a decision, I want information up front, not after the fact. That is why it bothers me so much that we're getting the information after the fact. And if we're going to be putting the numbers together and making sure that we're going to vote on something, those numbers need to be given to us, Mr. President. I don't understand how we feel so comfortable here and just sit back and make a decision based on something we have not been given. I asked for information on that. Mr.
I did not see the AD&D for what we're talking about. I saw information for the second and the third, and I think we can address that when we get to item number 4, but I didn't see that as far as the questions that you and I were talking about. Did you see that?
No, ma'am. And if I didn't, I'll go back to the emails, but I have not received anything specifically regarding this contract from you requesting information.
Okay, so, but you have the numbers of how much the agent of record gets paid.
I will research, ma'am. I'll have to go back to the RFP and see how it was established. My main concern was not in terms of the agent, but in terms of the item itself and what's the best benefit for our employee. I don't look at the agent.
Mr. Whittemore, who determines the agent in charge?
Not Kent Whittemore.
Not BISD?
No, sir.
Not BISD?
No,
so
sir.
we don't have control as who is the agent in charge?
I don't.
No, I'm asking you.
And
Mr. Spring,
no one in BISD that I know.
You select the agent in charge?
Right.
No,
It's submitted with the proposal, but
Thank you, sir.
I think the way it works, Mr. President, is that if I was to have a certain company, I find myself a broker, an agent, and then he's going to represent me. I'm going to bring him with me, hip to hip, so we can work together.
ma'am, may I say one more thing real quick?
Yes,
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Whittemore.
Last year during this time on that September 30th meeting, I have several emails and a situation I went through where a directive was given to me not to have an agent, then it was switched without my knowledge. So I did not have anything to do with the agent.
You know, Mr. Whittemore, it is my understanding when I call the Texas Department of Insurance that there's certain things that we don't have to have. This district doesn't have to be paying for certain services. And it is my understanding that with HealthSmart, that seems to be another red flag. That's why I'm asking, because we could be saving $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. And with that, guess what? I can hire at least 10 school teachers. Or maybe those $500,000 can be going to my salary increases for my employees. I'd rather pay my employees than having to pay an agent just to oversee an account.
And,
I mean, it makes
ma'am,
sense.
last year I was given that directive, and all of a sudden it was changed. I did not initiate the specific agent for this one.
Okay, Mr. Whittemore.
Yeah.
I mean, she touched on something, has nothing to do with, but I just, about having proof that we ask for information and we just never get it. I had asked for a long time ago, well, to me it's a long time, over a month, the consultants, a list of consultants that BISD pays, because like she said, there are certain things we don't have to pay for. That's why I'm bringing this in, because she opened that door. There are certain things we don't have to pay for. We can't hire teachers because we don't have the money. We can't give the increase because we don't have the money. We need the list of the people that we don't have to pay for. Why haven't I gotten it?
Mr. Springton.
We did put a list of all consultants that I had from, where did I get that from? I got it from finance. And we put that together, and that was put in the Friday letter.
I'll need to check because I looked and I
remember putting them specifically.
okay. I didn't see it in my, and I go through like 600 pages.
Check that on
Well, look.
Check for my.
Ms. Perez and inform the board that those information was received. Seems to me at times, there's so many packages and papers and whatnot. We just go through that and we're not very careful what is sent to us at times. And some of us sometimes don't even read those things.
And I'm very careful. I keep
So
notes.
check on that for me.
I keep notes on a lot of these records, and sometimes I get requests, and I know that when I come in yesterday, I went to a meeting from 8:15 till noon, and then I spend the rest of the afternoon working at Pullum Elementary until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And when I come back in, I've got requests that says I want it by the end of the day. When I'm up here till 7 o'clock last night, and I'm trying to get most of these requests done, but in some of the requests, it takes days of research. It takes days for me to take employees, and there's been certain requests that I've had to use probably 10 employees going back and pulling things out, and I've got a stack of paperwork that I'm giving to the board, and I'm pulling them away from their actual duties of what they should be doing to run a school district at the same time. I do want to adhere to all requests, and I want to do so in a timely fashion. But I'm also in charge of facilities. I'm trying to get 3 new schools open. I'm trying to get schools open in a matter of 2 weeks so that our kids are safe, so that our kids go into a school that's safe, and we're trying to work on these type of situations at the same time. I do want to honor every board request that I can on a timely fashion, but I cannot always do so on the same day that it's asked. And some of the stuff that I've been asked recently, and it's with no disrespect at all, because I want to provide the information, is that I have to go back to records when I'm asked to pull things from the year 2000, and I've got to figure out whether or not we still have it, because that was 9 years ago. I've got to go back to the records department to see where they may have it or if they may have it, and that's going to cause other employees to get involved in the research, and it's going to take time to pull some of that information together. But I do believe that the requests that have been asked in the last couple of days, you've been pulling together some information regarding the meetings, regarding your time with the companies, and we will get to more of that when we get to that one agenda item.
I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm ready to vote on this item. Either you.
I just have one final question.
Yes.
Back to my original question,
Okay.
did this item also go through the Employee Insurance Committee? It did not?
No, sir, it did not.
Okay, that was my question, but I
understand.
appreciate your explanation.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Aguilar, just one question, if I please.
All right. One more, and then either you turn it down or vote.
Tell
it
me
up.
why. I'm asking you, why are you so rushed to push this through when it's until October the 1st? Can you please give me an answer as to why we are rushing this without going through the 60? You were part of this district at one point, sir. I know you were part of the district, and you appreciate when you were on a committee that you were giving the time to go and serve and give your opinion, and not be told, pues se te pasó, you didn't see it. And you're like, wait, you didn't give it to me in an ample manner. You might have said you did, but I'm pleading with you as a former employee. Why are we rushing and not considering the rest of the employees? Can you answer that for me?
I can only answer because I cannot think what the administration was thinking is when they bring it up to the agenda, okay? I believe that many of us are given an opportunity, whether it's email or voicemail or whatever, to attend meetings. Historically, those committee members do not attend those meetings. Only when it's very present or whatever it is and they get on phone to come and do that. Normally, historically, it's been done either in August or in September. And the reason we do it is because they have to sign up or whatever it is, employees. And since we has over 7,365 employees, it does take time to register some of these things. Now, if the administration felt that this item should be brought to the agenda, then we need to listen to them. And if the administration, hold on, has done the research and then done the work, I'm going to listen to them. Now, if any board member feels that there's something went wrong and start accusing people that there's something wrong, to me that's a threat, and I would like for these board members to put it in black and white. Because if something's wrong, illegally going on in the district, or any consultants, or at third parties, or people making threats, either through emails or here in public, I want the public to know that I will take the initiative and for an investigation and bring these people to justice. All right?
Mr. Aguilar, my only concern is the rushing. Because I have, Mr. Aguilar, received emails from employees concerned with them not putting in their input and maybe the numbers aren't correct. That was the only thing that was given to me. I'm presenting it to you, and I would like to table this for our next meeting because I think there's questions here. And for me to sit here and hear, well, if you have a threat, I'm not threatening anyone. I want an answer. I'm simply trying to find an answer. Let me finish, please. So we don't end up like some of the people up the road that at the long end of the day, people get in trouble. And I don't ever want to be part of that trouble. I want to always be part of a solution. And my solution is to listen to the constituents that you and I both represent. And I just think this is rushed. That's my personal opinion because it's being rushed, even the way I'm getting it. Like, some people in our board, and I'm going to be very candid about it, are very good with numbers. They're experts. That's their livelihood. And those of us that aren't as sharp with the numbers and cannot catch on, and we go out and say, what is this? Explain this to me. I like to be given the time. That's all I'm saying.
And granted, thing is, I didn't say you were making threats. As if any board member are making threats, I would like to know about it to put it in black and white. Because we can go here all afternoon saying this happened. They accuse our employees of not following procedures. And perhaps Mr. Springton can look into this, or if he has, I would like to hear it.
I have a response, President Aguilar, if I may. And
If I have one more thing to say. My only problem, Mr. Aguilar, if I may, is that we called that board or that committee meeting in the summer, and like Mr. Tolman said, the summer people weren't there. Then why don't we wait till the school starts? It starts next week. We get all the teachers back on. Everybody's back on their little machine and the computer at school. Why not do the committee meeting then? Why do it in the summer? Like Mr. Tolman said, it's hard to get a hold of them. And some people don't have computers access anywhere else but here at the district. That's my only concern.
Yes, ma'am. President Aguilar, Interim Superintendent Springston, members of the board. Ma'am, I do understand your concerns fully with the EIC. We have addressed this. We are looking to set up bylaws and set up more like the Bond Oversight Committee. To me, quantity does not override quality. And I have very quality people on this committee that have been there that have taught me things since I've only been here 2 years. And I've learned a lot from them. I've counted on the consultants. I've worked with both. And I can honestly state that you pay me very well to represent all 7,500 employees in their best interests and the interests of you as board members and the taxpayers. And I can say without a doubt that I feel the process has had time and that we implemented it, ma'am, back in April to ensure the smooth transition for employees so their service is not disrupted. And that's the only reason. And it's not that it's going to be approved or disapproved, but to make sure that we did the best for the employee.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, do I have a motion?
Move to approve item 2.
Been moved by Mr. Cortez to approve item number A2. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Sayas? Okay, being seconded by the same. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Number, Pat, that's 1.
2 nays. 5 yes.
I was a yay.
Okay.
3 yay.
3. Ms.
Aye,
Pettis?
whatever. Aye, yay, whatever.
You voted against it, right?
No, in favor.
Favor.
In favor.
It was only the
okay,
2
only
females, no.
ladies.
Item 3, recommend awarding RFP 10043 TPA and excess insurance for BISD self-funded workers' compensation program to TriStar Risk Management and Shepherd Walton King with an option to renew for 2 additional years. Annual proposal.
Mr. Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, this is our TriStar third-party administrator for our workman's comp and risk management. Mr. Whittemore?
Sir, this was a proposal that we needed to go out for this year. We had exhausted the renewals the prior years. We've gone out. We feel TriStar has done an excellent job in working with us to reduce our workers' comp's claims. As I stated in the background that I presented at the Board Insurance Committee, there's an increase of only $37,000 that is related to increased payroll costs and a loss control component. But again, we feel we've done very well. Since their inception, we've saved approximately, or reduced claims, not saved, reduced claims by approximately $600,000, and we feel we can further reduce these.
Peña?
Yes, page 8 on what we have, I don't know if you have it, this has something to do with that, am I correct? This is tied into it?
Yes, ma'am.
Page 8.
The evaluation for.
Yes, can you help me? Because a lot of times these are so subjective, and it really, I pay attention to the subjective questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Professional qualifications. If you notice, the first column got a 0 for professional qualifications. Did you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
And yet the last column got a 5. Please elaborate on professional qualifications. That's too broad a statement.
Yes, ma'am. I understand. What we look at in terms of the proposals themselves are the individuals associated with the firm, the number of individuals, and their professional affiliations, their qualifications, licensings, et cetera. So some, be it if, for example, this firm is a very, very small firm, as we refer to as a mom and pop firm, as compared to a very large firm which has a multitude of resources and personnel and experience, ma'am.
Okay, and references, the same thing.
Yes, ma'am. Again, we go and there are different references submitted by the companies. Larger ones may, in this case, have, I guess, more comparable districts in terms of size and clients to where to compare apples to apples, so to speak, as compared to a smaller company that may have a couple of smaller clients. And when you look in terms of a district of 7,500 employees, again, my whole goal is to make sure that, you know, anyone that's injured on workers' comp or has any concerns is that we address their claims and process immediately.
Okay, and the vendor's past relationship with the district?
Right, yes, ma'am. We try to give some credit in terms of that because of the experience of working with us, building relationships. I feel that they should be rewarded for that in terms of my evaluation.
Okay, because I noticed between the first column and the second column, there's a $232,000 difference.
Yes, ma'am. Again, in terms of that throws up a big red flag to me right away because I know the size of our district and the number of claims that we have coming through the pipeline. It's broken down between record only, medical, indemnity. And in regards to this, certain companies may classify claims in certain aspects. A lot of times there's potential back charges, costs that come in from the back. The reason, like I said, with TriStar is it's a flat fee. There's none of this of per claim or this and that. It's a flat fee. You know exactly what you're paying. The associated fees are at cost. So that's really what I based my recommendation on.
You know for a fact that the first column is not a flat fee? They told you flat out it's not?
Yes, ma'am. The only flat fee was provided by TriStar. All the other proposals had different variables.
So you're saying that the reason why that first column at 174,000 was rated so badly as opposed to the 407,000 because you feel that they're going to come and make up their 232,000 in the back door?
I feel it has the potential for it, ma'am, and that I don't have experience with this size of company, this type of company, more so from the standpoint that, again, we are a very large organization, and I want someone that I know with experience that can handle the claims and keep the employee on track. Workers' comp is very, I don't want to say complicated, but it's very driven by law and things of that nature. And I want to make sure that the district's covered, the employees covered, and everyone's protected. This company, again, it's a very, very small company. Sometimes companies tend, I'm not saying that's what this company's doing, sometimes they tend to underbid in order to get the job. But again, my recommendation is very, very strong on TriStar, and it's based on the experience that we've seen over years and the reduction in claims. For the past 6 years, we have had no stop-loss claims. That's been pretty good.
And we've had this company?
For 3 years that I'm aware, ma'am.
So we have good working relationship with this particular company?
Excellent working relationship.
Okay. One more thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Your background on insurance, can I have that?
My background
Your
in
background
insurance?
expertise on insurance?
Ma'am, what you see is what you get. I've been here 2 years. I
Thank you.
love what I do, and
No,
I do it to
I'm
the
not
best of
questioning your
my
ability, just
ability,
the
but my
experience.
background in insurance, I have none.
Okay. I thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. If I may address Mr. Whittemore, same question, very specific, yes or no answer. Did this item also go through the employee committee?
Workers' comp, we do not take through the employee insurance committee, sir. No.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have one question. Mr. Whittemore,
Yes, ma'am.
is there any way I can get a detailed report of I know that we have number of injured.
Yes, ma'am. It
employees.
should be.
That I did get on the
Oh,
package.
okay, I'm sorry.
But I'd like to see how many of those employees needed surgery, how many of those employees needed physical therapy, how many of those employees have been out of work for more than 3 months. I want a detailed report, and because that's where it's going to show us how much money we've spent for disability,
I understand.
how much time off they've been from work. So I want more of a detailed report because, we're looking at the number here of you mentioned a flat fee.
Yes,
There's a flat fee, but we spend more, there's more spent
Right. Yes, ma'am.
than that. So remember, in life, it's all about the numbers.
Right, I
So
understand.
if you can give me that report, please,
Yes, ma'am,
I'll
absolutely.
send an
And I
email.
will work hand in hand with personnel to get the back to work, because the biggest concern for us is get the employee better and get them back to work. So yes, ma'am, absolutely.
And if you can just, I'm going to email you because I really want to know how many of those have been sitting there, because there's also attorney fees on some of those, if I'm not
Right.
mistaken.
May I interject, President Aguilar, Mr. Springston, members of the board? Yes, ma'am, you are correct. That's one of the recommendations for TriStar, is that those fees are at cost. It's not cost plus or anything. But we actively pursue those to make sure that there's no perception of fraud or abuse to the system. That's been where I've been a real strong proponent, is to get them back to work, get the word out there that, we're not going to take any abuse to our system.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I wanted to ask Mr. Springston regarding the recommended companies. Are you satisfied with the numbers presented as providing the best value to the district?
Yes, sir. I'm very satisfied with the fact that our claims have dropped, and that we've been working closely with this company and with the insurance company and with our own insurance department to work on with our specialist, who was working directly with and going from site to site to site and looking at hazards and going through training that they're helping us provide to make sure that we keep our injuries down to a minimum, and they have gone down. And that was my reasoning for working with Mr. Whittemore on this recommendation.
Yeah, I got a question. Mr. Whittemore,
Yes, sir.
on page 8, the is it JI companies?
Yes, sir.
That $222,000 figure,
Okay, sir, I'm sorry, go ahead.
is it fixed or is it moved?
No, sir. As per the note at the bottom, with the JI, they'll guarantee the rate for the year 1 and 2, and year 3 it could change. They do not have, you're subject to annual increase of 5%. They do not have a loss control program, which I'm very adamant about. I'm going to meet with Mr. Springston and address the concern that I had last year where safety was moved to maintenance. I feel very strongly it should be under insurance. They go hand in hand, and with a strong safety program, we can further reduce costs. But they also have startup fees. Again, it's trying to.
The reason I look at this is because on the ranking you have them ranked second, but they're almost $180 almost $190,000 cheaper.
Well, by
It seems like a
by
substantial
putting
amount.
that in, sir, but again, like I said, with the way they charge or could potentially classify certain claims, it could come back in on the, I want to say backside, but the claims administration.
I'm sorry, say that one more time?
Well, when they're paying like certain costs, for example, claims may be classified as record only, and they're charged at a certain fee. And if you have 100 at, $3, it's $300. They could classify and have different criteria, and based on the way they classify them, that was a concern of mine. Again, with a company this size, coming in at that price, it did throw red flags to me. I looked at all the other costs that would pop up here and pop up there in terms of the implementation fee, the setup fees not included. There's fees that seem that they come out at you, sir. That was my concern.
Was this item given to our insurance consultant?
No, sir. Again, in terms of the insurance consultant, he's hired specifically for the health plan, and that's the way it was in years past, sir. Since I've been there. Historically, we haven't taken this, again, under my watch, to the EIC. This is more of an administrative function, I feel, and that's what you're paying me to do.
Okay, that's it.
I don't have any questions on this item, sir.
Okay, sir. From what I understand, you, Mr. Whittemore, to have stated to Mr. Mr. Sayas. Cannot believe, like, forgetting your kids' names. Okay, yeah, we're getting there. $185,000 difference is what I see that Mr. Sayas pointed out.
Yes, ma'am.
So the presumption you're making is the loss guarantee program that's not included, billed separately, startup fees not included, but shall apply, that subject to an annual increase of 5%.
Yes,
You see that they could possibly, because these contracts are for 1 year, am I correct? This is a 1 year that we're signing, or is it 3 year?
It's a 1 year, ma'am, and we have the option to renew for 2 additional years, but
My question, let me finish, please,
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. You anticipate that they would increase or have some $185,000 fees?
again,
Because that's what
ma'am,
it would take to get up to the $407.
right, and
That is guaranteed to be paid to this other company. So you're telling me that you anticipate everything, because I did the math on the subject to the annual increase of 5%, that's $11,000. So you, on top of the $11,000, if it's a subject increase to 5%, you're anticipating that they will charge cost us up to 185, let me call them hidden fees for the lack of a better word. Do you anticipate that?
yes, ma'am. I do not like to refer to anything as hidden or anything like that.
I mean, like,
yes, ma'am, I understand.
you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying, I
what
don't
I'm
mean
trying to-
literally.
There's two sides to this. This is the TPA, the administration of it. You also have, I don't know if you have this in your packet, that breaks it down by years and the cost. And again, on the front page of the summary, you have a total cost there in terms of the claims incurred. And I'm afraid that side is what runs up a little bit more instead of having, and again, this is incurred, it's not paid out. So if we look back here at the current year, we may have paid out actual cost $700,000. So I look at it a lot from that side in terms of once they get that fee, for example, the 407, what is it that they do once they get it? Well, I can see where this company has reduced it from $2.2 million, say in 0405, to 1.3 to date in 0809. So I'm looking in terms of the administration of it. Where can we work together? Where can we get employees back to work quicker, get them off lost time, which goes into more, and like Ms. Garcia said, if you have individuals that are out on disability, then it affects so many other components. So again, this is what I recommend, and I understand, I appreciate your questions, I do, and they've really got me thinking, but I feel very strongly with this company.
Okay, one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
On page 8, down column, the third column where you have Cavazos, TPS, you have NA. Explain that one to me, because I've asked my colleagues and we're all kind of like, I
Yes,
don't
ma'am,
know.
the TPS it's considered a pool, a risk pool, and to the best of my knowledge, I was not here then, but the district has had a real bad experience in terms of a risk pool.
Okay.
So
You didn't even
It wasn't-
consider it. It wasn't a consideration.
not under my watch, no
Okay.
ma'am.
And who's the broker for TriStar?
I do not know of any broker. I deal with an individual, Mr. Jimmy Dyer, out of Corpus Christi. No broker or agent, ma'am.
Thank you. I appreciate your information.
You
Thank
are very welcome.
Anyone else? If not, do I entertain a motion?
Motion.
Move that we approve this. Do I have a second? Mr. Cortez, saying those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay.
Thank you.
Item 4, recommend awarding RFP 09150, third-party administration, TPA services for the self-insured group health plan and stop-loss insurance for the 2009-2010 school year to Mutual Assurance Administrators, Inc., for TPA services and ING for stop-loss insurance coverage for 1 year with an option to renew for 2 additional 1-year terms.
Mrs. Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I believe this is what we got to in our item number 1. When we're talking about presentations from the employee committee, that there were some questions that needed to be answered at this time. Mr. Whittemore, Mr. Looney, if there's any questions from anybody on the board, I think we can provide those at this time.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. You know, I'm in reading through the memorandum by Mr. Looney. It's a very somewhat detailed, very strong memo. But I have a few concerns because of the tone. You know, comments like the network was inefficient, all 3 hospitals required to participate, HealthSmart not providing level of service, a total lack of confidence by the staff, overall negatives. And, you know, I have concerns. You know, I'm not questioning whether or not it's the fact, but I know, Mr. Springston, that you did receive somewhat of a rebuttal from HealthSmart with about 13 or so points in which they address. Now, I'm not going to try to guess which of these points are valid, which are not, but the point that I do want to stress is that I don't feel that at this time we have ample information to actually make a decision. I mean, we have Mr. Looney's memorandum, which is very strong. We have a rebuttal by HealthSmart. The insurance committee, about 90% of the members were absent. So I just don't feel comfortable making a decision, whether it be to vote in favor or against of this item. I'll pass the floor to my colleagues for further discussion, but I would strongly suggest that this item be tabled until the next meeting, which is on the 18th. Hopefully by then we would have clarified, you know, the memo and the rebuttal and whatever else, other questions we have. Because at this time I feel absolutely confident that I personally am not ready to make a decision, but I'll pass the floor to my colleagues.
Peña.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we table this item as Mr. Escobedo requested.
I believe that was Mr. Escobedo with a second.
Second.
Okay, well, you know, I passed the floor to my colleagues if there was further discussion.
Not for
but you know, I will make the motion to postpone this item until the 18th.
Okay, it's been motioned by Dr. Escobedo to table this, and second by Ms. Peña. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
So can we open up for discussion then if you guys?
What's next? Garcia?
No? Okay. Gentlemen. I have a report here where I went to and I viewed the numbers and Mr. Looney, can you step up to can you call Mr. Looney up to the podium, Mr. President?
Mrs. Springton.
That's fine. Mr. Looney, if you would like to entertain any questions at this time.
May I make a statement first?
Yes, sir.
Obviously, I think Mrs. Garcia has got some definite horses in this race. I would like to ask the question if she's been in contact with any of the vendors and been in direct contact and discussed this process with any vendors.
You know who I've been in contact with, Mr. Looney? With the FBI.
Right.
Okay? So let's get
Did I give you my
to the
card?
questioning that I need, sir. You work for the district, I do the questions. I'm an elected official, sir. Respect that.
I will respect
Thank
it, if you will, Mrs. Garcia. As I understand it, you accused me of lying, cheating. You haven't listed incest, pornography, criminal. You said I was bought and controlled. I haven't been accused of being a rapist yet.
And I wouldn't unless you would have been one, sir.
Would you please go ahead and finish out the total?
Okay, you want for me to
whatever-
tell you how I feel about it, Mr. Looney?
Please do. So I think that what will happen is that it's obvious you're going to ask a series of questions.
I need
It's
to.
obvious that you don't have any intention of listening to what I have to say and answering those. So why are we going through the process? Make a
Because
motion.
we need to, sir. No, we
Make a
cannot make
motion.
a motion because some of us are very
I
uncomfortable, sir.
think he's like talking about asking questions and the process. So I believe he's ready for any questions, Mr. Rooney. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Fire away.
Can I be the one to question? Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, Mr. Looney, why did you state on your report that the employee from HealthSmart was there only 2 to 3 hours a week?
I
2
met-
to 3 hours a week, sir, not daily.
I met with the administration. I asked administration to set up a meeting with the people that were in the human resources area and in that area to go over the experiences and their expectations, what they were doing on a daily basis administratively with HealthSmart and their organization. I met with the ladies that work in Mr. Whittemore's office. Mr. Whittemore was present. They were the ones that gave me that information.
Okay. All of a sudden, this individual used to work for Mutual of Omaha back then, when Mutual of Omaha, which is, you stated, and this is where I have a problem, Mr. Looney. You have been the only consultant for this district that when we go out for bid, you refer and recommend the same agent. Why? Now, that agent, sir, that agent submits anywhere between 14 to 19 bids. So your agent, sir, has a win-win-win situation here on this bid, sir. And you know what? That's a lot of money, sir. Because every time you've been a consultant, and I have a problem with it, Mr. Looney, I seriously do. When you recommend the same agent over and over, you know, it's not good, sir. And especially when we have people already questioning us. This is my first time that I come onto this board, and I have concerns because I figured that out long before I was elected, sir. And I have a concern, a serious concern. And if you don't take me serious, sir, I hope we get to the bottom of this. Because I don't appreciate that I'm lied to. And you know why I say that you lied to me? Because you've lied to this board before on the agent of record. And I had to pick up that phone call to reiterate that I remembered back then when you said that it was the law to have an agent of record. And it was not the law, sir. Now, I don't know if any of these board members were here back then, but that's what bothers me. I'm asking you for a question, and you are hiding things from me. I don't appreciate that, because if I'm going to make a decision, it's going to be based on facts and based on what the current insurance carrier can give us. Now, I asked for the second quarter report. Obviously, was that considered before the RFPs went out, or was that after the fact? Did you include that into the RFPs? Was that taken into consideration?
Ms.
Just
Garcia,
a
would you
simple
let
yes
him,
or no.
would you let him answer those questions? I think there was a series of 2 or 3 questions.
Those are all my red flags.
So would you please?
The first question. Mr. Cavazos is the agent on all of the recommendations. It's very easy to go back in history and see that the RFP process was handled by the purchasing department of this school district. When the RFPs were submitted, they were all evaluated, and a complete evaluation was given to the board and to administration. And those evaluations were completed, and Mr. Cavazos was the agent that had submitted the quote on that particular product. If you look at the RFP specifications that were recently put out, you ask if I included that information. I was not your consultant when the RFP was produced. The RFP was produced by someone else. I'm not even sure who it was.
Mr.
It was
Pendy,
put out
sir.
by
The current one was Mr. Penley, which you know him personally.
Mrs. Garcia, I would like for that to go down in the record because I wouldn't know Mr. Pendley if he walked in this door. I have never even spoken to the man. So if you want to get with Mr. Pendley and get that confirmed, that'll be fine. And that, you know, I'm sorry, Mr. Aguilar. I don't know how to respond to that question other than that because it's obviously something that's very easy to prove, and that can be proved very easily.
Can we just go on with the, your
The
presentation?
RFP was presented by the purchasing department. The results of the RFP is what that I received, and in that receipt of that RFP, there was information through, I believe, the end of May, as far as the claims were concerned.
You stated on your memo here dated August the 7th, it says, Brownsville Independent School District experience with vendor. Substantial increase in claims due to lack of appropriate discounts with hospital and physicians. Why did you say that? I have an answer here. I'm going to compare your answer to what the expert that I can believe in gave me. So, because your expertise has been to refer the same agent for the one that has submitted numerous bids time and time. That's the only expertise I have seen here, Mr. Looney. That every time we go out for RFPs, your only expertise is to make sure or to have the same agent of record to get. You want from me? I can bring you show you all the insurance cards that you've been a consultant, and I have the names of the companies that you have referred to this board or previous board members to vote as recommendations, and it's been the same agent. It's been the same agent that you've referred to. Why? All of a sudden we hire you, but HealthSmart is not good enough for you? When I have taken the documents elsewhere to review, and I have been told that we've done better than the past, that's why I don't feel it's good for us to vote on this item, because I've requested for information from the past 10 years. So we can view numbers and make sure that this current administration and this board can work together in making sure that we're going to make the right decision. And there's other ways that this district should go with the insurance. But at this point in time, we don't have time for that. We have to make sure that we get an insurance company. Now, the rush, you told us that we wouldn't have enough time. The last insurance company signed up all the employees in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, they signed up all the employees when they made the transition. And you say that there's not enough time and that we have to move on it really quickly.
When did I say that?
The last meeting, sir.
Ms. Garcia, what is your question you wanted to address?
I want him to answer substantially increase in claims due to lack of appropriate discounts in hospitals and physicians. How did you come to the conclusion of that, sir?
Well, 2 ways. One, I followed up with what your previous consultant had provided to you in February, which was one of the reasons that the change was taking place anyway. He had indicated in his information that the claims that were being paid based on their contract discounts were in the 42 to 45% range. That information was provided to you in February. And it stated from his review that that information showed that the claims were not being paid at the rate that they suggested that they were going to be paid. The other thing that we looked at from administration standpoint was the fact that the reserve component of your health care plan was going down quite rapidly. And there was an increase in the, and I think that if you'll look at the overall claims information that I have based on the claims that were presented in the RFP itself, you'll see that there was somewhere in the 42 to 45% range in discounts for those services. Now, I don't know who your expert is, but be glad to talk to your expert and go over it with him so that we can compare notes.
It's as simple as 1, 2, 3 for you, sir, because it's a $38 million bid, and you just expect for us to just go ahead and just vote on it like if nothing, when I have already reiterated that it is not right. Plus, how much are we going to end up losing if we make the transition, which is something that I requested, Mr. President, and I don't have the figures from you, Mr. Looney, to show me what is it that we're going to end up paying if we make the transition, because we're going to end up paying. Now, once we make the transition, all those claims that are not picked up by the other carrier that we end up letting go?
No, I'm not let go at all.
Then,
They're gonna-
well,
they're gonna be
what's going to
administered.
happen to those claims, sir?
They'll be administered, and as part of the new carriers, and administer them on a runoff basis.
And who's it going to, off of whose expense?
Say again?
Off of whose expense? Who's going to pay for those expenses?
Well, the school district's
Mm-hmm.
responsible for paying those expenses.
How much do you think we're going to end up paying, Mr. Looney? Because if you're such
In
an
the
expert, you
past
should
4
have given us
years,
the
Mrs.
numbers.
Garcia, the maximum runoff expense in the last 4 years consistently is between $2.8 and $3 million in claims. To exercise the administration on those 2.3 to 3 million claims, the person, the mutual assurance, has accepted a fee of $129,000 to pay those runoff claims.
So there's a saving?
Sir?
Is there a savings?
Is there a savings? It's the savings are claims. Is there a savings if in fact HealthSmart were to pay the runoff claims? Their charges and their expenses are roughly $900,000, according to their information.
Mr. President?
Yeah, I have a big concern with an email that went out, and I don't know how many of the board read it or not. It's on the board member request, and it concerns me because it deals with the insurance, but it makes accusations. And I just want to make sure that the integrity of this process hasn't been compromised by anyone on the board, administration, any of your staff, because according to this email that we got with one of those giant stacks of documents the board member request says, Mr. Looney better not pull anything on us like he has in the past. He and all of us are being watched, recorded, and followed. I'm not sure exactly what the allegation is, but it says, I also know that I'm not going down with anybody linked to the 19 RFPs. I have signed on the dotted line to protect and clear myself. That seems like an accusation of something. And it's important that if a board member has this type of concern, that some process might have been compromised. You know, if there's specific factual information that we have, that anybody has, you know, that it be presented to this board. Because if there's any facts out there that anybody on this board or anybody in the administration has done anything inappropriate, then like Mr. Aguilar said, we need to look into these things. You know, part of what the other one says, no lie, stop playing political games, and this is directed at the superintendent. You know, then it goes on to say, FYI, I know the connection, it's okay, we're being watched, this is a big deal. By the way, in case you guys didn't notice, there were pictures taken of all of us during the meeting, especially from agents doing the presentations. So before we go any forward, I think it's imperative that whatever factual information may be out there, that we have it. So if you have any specific knowledge or any specific fact on this allegation, then you need to present it to this board so that we can take action prior to making a decision, because the threats that are being made here, or the allegation that's being made here is pretty serious. I don't know what anybody else thinks about this, or if anybody else had an opportunity to read this email, but it's alarming. I mean, it's alarming, and we all got it with our board member request. And you know, if for some reason you feel the administration did something inappropriate because one of those emails is directed at Mr. Springston, then we need to know. Because I haven't been to any of the insurance committee meetings. The only information that I've received is information that I've received off of board member requests. I haven't been to any of the employees' insurance committees.
Mr. Springton?
And these are serious, and I would
Make a decision then.
I would expect that if there's something going on that we be told.
And I've had that discussion on that board member request because when I received it, it concerned me greatly. So immediately I had an opportunity to bring together my staff, people in finance, people in budgeting, people in purchasing, people in insurance. We sat down at a table. We went through the specs and how everything was laid out and how it was put out since April. We discussed it. We went over it. I even have our procurement officer here, Corpus Zarella, and specifically went through to ask those same questions, and because being illegal is just not part of what we want to do here.
Mr.
And so, Mr. Zarola, did we go through the specs? Did we go through and follow the procedures that are necessary according to Chapter 44?
Superintendent and President, yes, everything was done correctly as per the process, procurement process.
Mr. President and Mr. Administrator, and Mr. Springston.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sorolla. You know that you touch a very good point right now, Mr. Cortez, because if you haven't been here in any of the insurance committee meetings to help you make a decision, how can you even be ready to vote on it today? I mean, you just said it, sir. If I was to be in your shoes, I wouldn't even be commenting or saying anything, but just sitting back and gather information. Because if you claim that you haven't been here, then obviously right now we picked a motion. You could have easily said that you weren't ready either, and you could have voted with us to table this item. But you're the one that has made up your mind. And I have already been here, and I haven't missed one single insurance committee meeting. And I've been gathering information. And you know what? It bothers me, because some of us know which direction we were heading towards. Even the company knew back in March or April, they were notified that they were no longer going to be providing us a service before it even went for RFPs. Our priority here was to get on the ball and make sure that we gave this $38 million contract immediately, Mr. Cortez. And it's wrong, sir. So you know what? I remember and I recall a previous board member that used to sit on this board, and my hats go off to her, but I feel the same way she felt at a point in time. She used to always say, and this was her quote, "Something smells," and it does.
Well, see, now you've touched on something specific, and that's what we need, that sort of information. Who in this administration went and told that vendor that they were no longer going to do business? That's a specific allegation. Who? Because that person needs to be reported to Mr. Springston so he could take action. If that sort of thing happened, then we need to look at those things. You know, I rely on the administration that administration puts out. If this administration is incorrect, when I go back in there and evaluate Mr. Superintendent, he'll know based on his recommendations to this board what I felt now knowing other sets of information. We have to rely as much as possible that what we're being told by this administration is accurate. We also have to abide by, as much as possible, the wishes of what the employees' insurance committee wants. If their recommendation, whether they're 8 or 60, even 60 is a small number, like Dr. Escobedo pointed out, even if they were all there to vote, it's still a small minority of the entire number of employees out there. But still, why isn't there more? I don't know. Obviously, they mentioned some protocols that are going to be put into place, some guidelines like the bond oversight. It's a start to something. That has never been done before in the time that I've been here. So that's new. That's a step in a different direction, and maybe they'll open it up to more people. Who knows? Maybe this board should have a separate committee where we invite the medical community to be a part of some of these discussions, because they're the ones that are impacted also with some of these healthcare issues that we take out. But you make allegations, and you've given no concrete information, and I have a concern about that, because you mentioned that you've been talking to the FBI. Well, I mean, if there's an allegation of somebody, let us know so that we can help you get to the bottom of it, because nobody wants to go on a wild witch hunt here.
We have done in the past.
We need facts. When you have facts, we can go forward. If you don't present facts and all you have are red flags, you know, that's not really a fact.
I concur with you.
You mentioned something real specific. Do you have a name of somebody who told that company they were no longer going to be doing business? Because that person needs to be reported to that man right there.
Mr. President, I concur with you, Mr. Cortez, but let me tell you one thing. You mentioned about a witch hunt. We just had one just recently, has cost us thousands of dollars. So don't even go there, please. This is another situation that I'm concerned. So before we cross the line, let's sit back and let's view everything before we make a decision. That's why right now you admitted yourself that you couldn't make a decision because you haven't attended all the board meetings. Why didn't you vote for us, with us, to table the item? Why didn't you? You just said it right now, sir, and you know what?
You obviously were not listening to what I just said.
No, you
I
said
said that I have to rely on the recommendations that administration presents.
But let me tell you,
At
Mr.
some
Cortez.
point, administration does something inappropriate or incorrect in a recommendation that they make, then I'll deal with that with the superintendent during evaluation time.
Do we have
Ms.
the
Garcia,
administrator that?
It's evident that whatever we tell you is not going to be satisfy your curiosity.
No, sir, because there's many questions to be answered.
Let me ask some questions. These questions are for Mr. Looney. Mr. Looney, can you step up, please? Doing the presentations, I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, but HealthSmart made the assertion or the representation that from the new contracts that they had renegotiated, that their discounts were going to be in the 60% range.
Correct.
Did you look and substantiate any of those allegations?
Allegations?
Or representations?
Representations?
Yes, I'm sorry.
I tried to do. Went through the repricing model with the hospitals. I went through the process of negotiating or talking to the hospital people that deal with those types of contracts. They have increased their services somewhat on their contracts, but they're still just bringing them up to where they should have been in previous years. The loss of the contracts during the past 2 years has been between $4 to $5.7 million a year based on their own admission and their submission for their bid. They said that based on new contracts that they had renegotiated, so that $4 million was lost over the last 2 years. So that's been the problem. Verifying those numbers has been difficult. I've asked on a number of occasions for definitions of how the discount process and how the discount is shown in their contract as being a reduction not on discounts but a reduction in planned savings. So planned savings is the correct terminology to use, not discounts.
Okay, now, with regards to the other 3 proposals that came through, did you check to see what kind of savings do you expect for the district?
Followed the same process with all of them, yes, sir.
Okay, and what kind of savings do you expect for the district?
What kind of savings overall?
Yes, from this year to next year, let's say.
Based on if you had the same plan experience this year, if you have the same plan experience next year, it's going to be between $4.5 and $5 million.
You're saying with the company that you chose, you expect between $4.5 to $5 million less
As a reduction in the expenses as a result of the discounts that are in place with the providers.
Okay. Now, with regards to the historical data that you use for our current carrier, which is HealthSmart, how much historical data did you use? Because I can't keep on hearing about second quarter, third quarter, I don't know. Do we have at least a whole full year, or how many quarters did you?
2008 plan year plus through May of 2009.
Okay. So the plan year started in October of when?
2007? 7.
So the historical data you have runs from October of 2007 through October of 2008 and carries on through May of 2009.
Actually, the historical data that I have overall starts in, I think, 1999.
I'm sorry, with regards to HealthSmart, or are you just talking about with the district in general?
With the district in general.
Okay. The company that you chose, which is, who are they?
Mutual Assurance.
Mutual Insurance. Did have they given you historical data they have from other districts that they have?
The historical data for claims comes from the PPO network, not from the administrator.
Okay. But from their PPO, they're using a PPO, right?
Correct.
And their PPO is going to be, well,
Texas True Choice.
okay. Have you been able to look at the historical
Yes.
data from Texas True Choice?
Yes,
And is it in line with the representations that they made to us?
yes.
As just with regards to their simple fees as a third-party administrator, how do you expect the difference? Like, for instance, the third-party administrator today in our plan is whom? What company?
Third-party administrator is HealthSmart.
But there's two different HealthSmart companies, right?
I think they've merged into one company now. I think they used to be AAG, and now I think the overall umbrella is HealthSmart.
Okay. With regards to the third-party administrator function, how much do we spend as a district a month in the third-party administrator function?
I'm not sure what it is on a monthly basis. It's roughly $200,000, roughly.
Somewhere in the neighborhood of 200,000?
Is that correct?
Okay, with regards to that function with the mutual insurance, mutual associates, I guess, that you chose, do you expect a savings with that function?
There will be, based on the proposals that were presented and the estimation of the total number of participants in the plan, combined with the overall expenses from the stop-loss carrier, then there was about $225,000 difference in the overall cost.
So when you say $200,000 to $225,000 difference, you mean in a year's time?
Yes, sir.
So it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 to 20,000 a month. Is that fair to say? Okay. In your looking at the plan on HealthSmart, have you noticed anything from the representations that they made to the district to how the plan has actually carried out?
As I included,
That we should be concerned of as a district.
as I included in my memo, the concept of, quote, discounts versus planned savings is a significant differential, and you need to understand that terminology so that the concept of discount includes does not include any of the expenses that are paid by the employee. Planned savings includes all those expenses that are co-shared by the employee. So when you see a representation of discount being 67%, it's not discount, it's planned savings equals 67%. So that's one flag that went up.
Okay.
The other thing that I was concerned about was when I looked through the contract for disease management. In the disease management contract, there was a statement that in the contract itself said that there was a fee per month paid for every diseased member of the district. And when I pulled the premium statements that are being paid for by the school district, the fee is not per member, that a diseased member, but it's per employee per month.
What is a disease member?
Disease member, according to Mrs. Garcia, that would be me. I'm terrible. I'm diseased. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Mr. Looney, can you do me a favor? Please have a little bit more respect, okay? I don't appreciate those jokes.
Let's continue with the discussion, please.
Mr. Looney, please.
The disease member is someone that has been diagnosed with a specific disease that then is applied or has applied to treatment or service for that particular disease under the provider.
This is like an ongoing chronic disease, not an acute disease.
Cardiovascular problems, anything that has to do with diabetic problems, things that are of a long-term nature that are considered to be a disease.
Did you check the historical data, see how far back that this fee was being charged to us?
Back to the inception of the plan.
And how much is that fee?
$2.49 per employee per month, or per member per month, depending on the contract.
Anything else that you notice?
Well, the other thing that I was concerned about is that under the contract, it was a requirement for the prescription drug company to provide rebates back to the school district on a regular basis. So I asked administration if they could verify that those discounts had been received. And when the question was asked of administration, they answered no, that they could not verify that they had been received. According to information I received yesterday, there has been a deposit, and the deposit was made on August the 4th or 5th, and that there were other deposits that I think Mr. Reese has requested information on to determine when and if those deposits were actually made.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay, it appears that there's some allegations or innuendos or implications fairly strongly from one of our board members here, that there's some kind of connection between you and Mr. Cavazos, the agent, and I don't know who else, a board member or something. Do you currently do any work as a consultant in any way for Mr. Cavazos? Do you in any way receive any kind of compensation from Mr. Cavazos?
Absolutely not.
Or you're not in any way receiving any kind of pay benefit from Mr. Cavazos?
No, sir.
Would you agree with me, sir, that if you were receiving a consulting fee from Mr. Cavazos, or you were somehow getting a payment from him or an entity related with him, that it would be a conflict of interest for you to function as our consultant in this matter?
Not a question. Just as a background, just so that you'll know, about early mid-90s, there was a great deal of concern in the insurance industry about whether or not an individual was licensed as an agent or licensed as a consultant. So working with the State Insurance Board, we came up with a license required for health insurance counselor, specific to the health insurance industry. I worked with the State Board of Insurance in developing that program and the question and also the requirements of that process, because we were having a great deal of trouble with consultants that were bidding cases at a very low rate and then taking commissions on the backside. And I worked very closely with the Department of Insurance, with one of their divisions in the fraud area, to help resolve those things that occur throughout the state with other agents involved. And that can be confirmed very easily if you want to call Mr. Mike Giesland, the Department of Insurance Commissioner.
Let's see. Dr. Escobedo.
Yes, sir. You know, part of the reason that we went out for RFQs, the way I understand it, because the health plan dollars that were being spent above and beyond in previous years. You know, but back to my point that I've said in different forms. You know, about a quarter of our health plan dollars are being spent by 19 of our members, which means about 0.2% of our members are spending 25% of our health plan dollars. Now, that specifically because of this point is why during the presentations I would ask the same question to every vendor. How would you save money in cases like this? Would you cut back on payments for certain services, procedures, equipment? And of course, everybody said no, and they all gave me the same answer, which is expected. We would work diligently on preventing these conditions as experienced by these 19 members. But unfortunately, we can only prevent so much in medicine. We can't prevent everything. And these 0.2% of our members have conditions that probably are not preventable, and if we could prevent them, we'd probably be awarded the Nobel Prize in medicine. The point is that no one can deny the fact that we have had a bad year. I just don't know if we're going to blame somebody or point fingers who would blame it. You know, we can't blame really anybody for these conditions. So how we would save $4.5 to $5 million, I mean, I don't see how that can be predicted unless we know for a fact that you know, we won't have cases like these 19 people had, and none of us can really know that. We don't know who's going to have premature babies or who's going to have whatever XYZ condition. So to predict a savings of that magnitude is really, really.
May I repeat what I said?
Sure.
What I said was that if you took exactly the same claims that you had this last year and applied the appropriate discounts that are available from the new carrier, from the new person, that would generate anywhere between $4.5 and $5 million. This is past claims history experience using the vendor's discount fees and rates that will be in place at that time. I'm not predicting that you're going to save that specific amount. That's what would have been saved had you done this previously. The other thing that Mutual Assurance is doing to put teeth into this process is they're going to put a wellness person on site in the district, a registered nurse that will work on a regular basis with all employees, whether they're insured or not, to generate a better wellness environment for the district. Plus, they are also going to put a person in staff 40 hours a week in the HR department.
Okay, well, we're beating this to death. I mean, I'm not sure. I read somewhere in this stack of papers, I think that the incumbent has 40 RNs or something along the lines. We have our own wellness program. But, you know, we're just going in circles here. It's obvious that our minds are made up. I remain adamant that, you know, I need more time to review this, specifically because of the memo, Mr. Lewin, that you wrote. And again, I'm not saying that it's true or false or either way. I'm just saying it's very strong. And I really would like to hear a rebuttal, or Mr. if nothing else, from Mr. Springsteen. I know that of all of these points, if they are factual, which I don't have no reason to doubt, they're very serious. And if that's the case, then the incumbent really needs to be penalized somehow for all of these wrongdoings that they're being accused of in this memo.
Mr. Springsteen? Yes, sir.
When I stepped in this process from the Board of Trustees, I know that there was a recommendation for a consultant, and it was put down, and then Mr. Looney was nominated and became through the process. Me not being an insurance specialist or expert in any way whatsoever is relying a lot on staff and also the consultant and his knowledge and ability to take a look at the data that came over the years, and for him to come up with a recommendation, and that's what we had put on the table for him to do. That's what he was paid his money to do. And I have to rely on his expertise and his working with the insurance department with Mr. Whittemore, and working through Mr. Reese, and also working through our procurement process and the things that we did with our RFP, and for him and for me to recommend to follow his recommendation.
Mr. Springsteen, the question was that somehow the one we had was blamed for all these, not having all this many savings. Is anyone in our district, or employees or administrators, ever blamed the other insurance carrier? Reason why we went to out for bids? My question is, I think Dr. Scola has mentioned that they have blamed the other carrier for all misgivings that we had.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
I'm asking you if the district, whether it's you or Mr. Whittemore or anyone else in that committee, or anyone with administration for that matter, blame the former carrier for our misgivings, and that's why we went to bids.
And overall negative, no confidence.
Right.
Okay. You know,
my understanding is, I think it was in February that our consultant at that time, Mr. Penley, am I getting his name correct? Mr. Penley made the recommendation to this board that because of some of the numbers and what he was following and what he had seen and what he was tracking, is that this board and this district need to go out for RFPs for this insurance.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Electric. I have a question for Mr. Looney. In going through some of the documentation that we received and the recording for the committee meeting that some of the members attended, and I wasn't physically there, but I got to listen in on some of the stuff that went on. There was never any mention of a cost savings. Right now, you just represented a dollar amount, but then the way I heard you say it the first time, and then when Dr. Escobedo asked you, you answered it a little bit differently. That $4 to $5 million savings is based on this current plan now. Do you have a projection of what the savings would be if we voted for this new company? Maybe you answered it the last two times that it was presented. Maybe I didn't understand correctly. I just want clarification.
What I wanted to make sure you understood was that it was not a fictitious number, because we took the claims, applied it against what the discounts would have been had the other discounts been in place, and that would have generated the savings. So moving forward, I don't know what the exact total volume of claims is going to be. The estimation is it's going to be somewhere in the $37 to $38 million range, which would be less than where it's been trended currently.
I guess my question leading into that would be that savings, or really getting us back on budget, because I think our budget is around 37 or 38 on our health plan. Getting us back on that budget, what would you attribute that savings to?
It's attributed.
Hold on. Would you attribute it to the cost? Because I know Dr. Escobedo mentioned something and then just kind of caught my ear there for a second. And I'll just use this example. Let's just say our board secretary, Pat, goes in for knee surgery.
That's against HIPAA regulation.
Let's say she does. Is Mutual going to cover the actual hardware for that knee? Or is that going to be an expense that we're going to offload onto the employee? Right now, currently, hardware is included.
That's part of your plan design. There's no intent.
Well, that's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you if Mutual, whatever company, Mutual Assurance, if once it's approved or not approved, if they're approved, if an employee goes in to have a surgery and there's some type of a hip replacement or a knee replacement, is that knee, that prosthetic, going to be covered? Or are we going to harm our staff by having them pay that fee, and that's what you would attribute that savings to?
No. Was it previously covered under the plan? It'll be covered under the new plan. There won't be any changes in the coverage, won't be any changes in the benefits payable to the employees by making a change. Pre-existing conditions do not exist.
Your answer is yes.
Yes.
Mutual
Absolutely.
will cover that employee if that employee needs some type of a replacement of.
Would your previous carrier have covered it?
I want to know, based on what you've been hired to do, on the analysis that you presented to us, if the recommendation that you've guys have put together, is it going to benefit the employees in that sense, or is that savings that the district's going to have, or are we going to offload it back to the employee?
No, you're not offloading anything back to the employee. If the current plan would have covered that process, the new plan will cover that process.
See, and I guess maybe I'm having a difficult time grasping that, because the current plan is HealthMart. I have an agenda here.
No, sir. The current plan is the Brownsville Independent School District plan document that provides benefits and services to the employees of the school district. HealthSmart nor the new carrier do anything but abide by that contract for the delivery of the service to your employees. There is nothing in that contract that says that an employee that is currently covered under the plan, has met all the requirements for employment from the previous plan, will have any reduction in benefits moving forward in the next plan year.
Okay, is that something that the administration puts together in the contract for?
That's the contract that Mr. Saldana is aware of, that I'm aware of, that everybody's aware of, that there's no restriction.
That's not a HealthSmart issue That's not a mutual. I guess I just want clarification on that. Mr. Aguilar, I don't know if we can address Mr. Saldana on that. I just want to make sure that moving forward, that the employees won't be the ones that we're offloading any of the savings to.
Well,
and so
I'm going to ask Mike to answer that question, but normally, Mr. Cortez, since we're self-employed, we're the insurance, really. So what we agreed to provide our employees is up to these people in here upon the recommendation of the board.
That's correct, Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Cortez, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent. The plan is the district's plan. What's covered or not covered is dictated by the district's plan. And that plan is periodically reviewed by the insurance committee and this board. What we are here today is strictly for the third-party administration, which is the contract that will be either approved or voted down today in regards to administering the claims under that plan. So you switch out TPAs, it doesn't matter. It's the district's plan.
So I guess let me just ask you this question then, Mr. Salai. If an employee went last year and had that knee surgery and the district plan covered that prosthetic, there's no reason why moving forward, if there is a new TPA, why that employee should not be covered as well.
Exactly.
That fee will not be.
The fee has nothing to do with
I know the city of Brownsville has that problem with some of its people, and some people just avoid having this treatment happen. And then, like Dr. Escobedo mentioned, you've got 19 people costing you 25% of your plan. Well, all of a sudden it's going to be more because they're not going to want to go pay for that $5,000 hardware.
The TPA has nothing to do with the plan.
Right.
The plan is the district's plan, and the district can adjust the plan any way they want to because it's the district's plan. It belongs to BISD and its employees, and it's self-funded to a degree up to the stop-loss level. The TPA merely administers that plan. The TPA doesn't determine what benefits are going to be provided to employees. That's determined differently by this board in a different meeting, in a different agenda in regards to what this school district, through input from the employee insurance committee, wants to structure that plan and what they want to cover and what they don't want to cover. That has nothing to do with third-party administration. That's a separate contract. It's a services-only contract.
Just one more question. So this question will be for Mr. Springston. There has not been any conversation, has there been any conversations with you or your staff about excluding these type of services to the staff in an effort to reduce the cost on the district's end?
No, we have not.
So so then so there's not any foreseeable change on that. Yeah, and that was just one of my concerns, because I know that the city of Brownsville has had some of these problems with their carrier, and I would hate for the district staff to go into a hospital for one of these services, and then they say, okay, well, we're going to cover your hospital, but you got to pay this $5,000 knee replacement or titanium plate and bolts that, all this hardware that's not covered, and we're harming the employee, and then those 19 that are costing us 24% turn into 50 that are costing us 50%, but I guess that was answered.
Mr. Cortez.
Thank you, Mr.
Let me address your concern, because the carrier only is going to administer our funds. So their responsibility when it comes to your question is to see can we get the best deal to get all that equipment that person might need. If the district covers it. Now, there might be just only one service. There'll be other services that we do not provide as a school district because we're self-funded, right? We're the insurance. So I think to address those issues, those can be brought to the insurance committee and bring out those what you call services that are not covered by the present plan, and then perhaps later on the administration can do the research, make a recommendation to the board, and we change the plan. Once we've changed whatever it is, then they themselves will say, yes, okay, let's go find what is the best service available. But they have nothing to do with it. Mr. Springston?
Yes. No, go ahead, Doctor. Doctor wants.
Just two very simple questions. First of all, when was the last time that the plan was reviewed for the by the board? And secondly, how many lives does Mutual Assurance work with?
What do you mean lines?
Yeah, how many lives do they cover? Do they insure? Do they work with? How many people? I think that's an insurance term, isn't it?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought you said lines, and I was
lives. So my first question: when was the plan last reviewed by the board? And my second question: how many lives does Mutual Assurance work with?
As far as the plan being reviewed, I do not know the last time it has been.
I don't think
since I've been here. And
yeah. Since I've been here, I don't think it's been reviewed either.
Yeah, you can answer that, Mr. Whittemore.
Yes, President Aguilar, Interim Superintendent Springsteen, members of the board. Dr. Escobedo, when I came on back in May and we came into the contract with HealthSmart, the first thing we did was get together as a group with HealthSmart, go back and review the benefits, because to me that's the most important thing for the employee. That's how they are affected, and that's where really, to me, the Employee Insurance Committee could come in, because that is their benefit document. We made the changes, made the recommendations, added some procedures we felt very strongly need to be there. For example, mammograms, they should be allowed to be every year instead of every 2 years. So we modified it from the standpoint of what we thought was best for the employee. We brought it to the board and had it approved, I believe, in December of that year. I will confirm that, but it was as soon as we came on board with HealthSmart. That was one of our first priorities, and HealthSmart was very good about that.
Yeah, please get the date. I just can't
Absolutely,
remember.
yes, sir.
Mr. Whittemore,
I'm sorry,
has the insurance committee have come approach you and say, you know, we really need additional services for the district to cover? Because I like Mr. Escobedo, Dr. Escobedo, we've been here 5 years, and I don't think an issue has been brought to our board to vote on additional service.
Knowledge. Yeah, not to my knowledge.
But my question to you, has they ever approached you?
Again, no. What we've done, sir, is we haven't addressed that issue currently. Again, it was addressed at the very beginning. We did bring it to the board for approval with the changes that were implemented. Again, that will be one of the first tests, no matter what we do today, but to go with whoever the TPA is, and to review that again and make that part of the annual process. I think it's important to make sure that we have the most up-to-date information by which to give the benefits to our employees.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Colunga? Yeah, you waive your right to.
Yeah, my second question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I believe in the RFP, it was requested to the total number of lives. I believe they added there 125,000 lives, I believe. It was in the RFP.
Yeah, I just don't remember, I didn't remember coming across any figures. So Mutual Assurance deals with about 125,000 lives?
Which makes them relatively large in the form of a third-party administrator. Not huge, but large.
Right. And HealthSmart, how many lives do they deal with, out of curiosity?
Nationwide, I don't know. They've increased their size considerably in the past 3 or 4 years, 5 years.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Colunga.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. In the, I just wanted to review the decision-making process that it has involved input from the different committees. I think there has been, as Mr. Whittemore had mentioned, the proposal process has been going on for several months, and we've had committee meetings to address the questions in reference to the proposals, and that has been mainly leading to a recommendation from administration. I know there's a concern among board members to wait until there's more time to review the data. We have had the data in our hands for a long time in terms of the quarterly report. We depend, of course, on experts. Ms. Garcia referred to her own expert, but I don't think that's the way it works. We have not anonymous experts, but we need to have people that we know have their credentials and are willing to go on the record as to their recommendation before we make a decision. It is something that can be questioned would be where is your information coming from? The process has allowed for administration to go through the questions that they have, the concerns, to depend on independent board members' investigations dealing with their own expert. I don't think is appropriate. There are, of course, the concerns that Mrs. Garcia has expressed, but I think they need to be brought forward in writing as to what the concerns are, the red flags, the inappropriate procedures that have been brought to her attention. But overall, I think there has been enough time to make a decision, and would mainly refer to that, the consultant's report, and since the beginning it's been the discounts that are a concern. You had mentioned, Mr. Looney, the repricing model that had showed the on page 3 of your report that there was a reduction of claims and coming up with a savings percent, that those were being claimed as discounts. Can you clarify that as far as the repricing model, how that worked, and determining the actual discounts?
When we put out the billings that we had from the different hospitals, we also put out the top 25 or 20 CPT codes. Doctor knows what CPT codes are. And the top 20 providers for physician providers. We asked for very specific benefits that would be paid for those codes and those providers. We also asked for the billing statement to be repriced, which meant that they were to take that bill, apply it against their repricing model, and give us a percentage of discount based on where they were repricing. When we got the repricing information back, the repricing information had certain percentages in it based on what they said the discount was, and each of the providers, what each one of the providers said their discount was. We then went back to the different hospitals that we received the billings from to confirm the information that we had been given based on what that percentage was. And it was very unclear as to what the actual percentage was, because there was all ineligible and benefits applied to it. When we sent the billing out, we said very specifically, what is the percentage discount on this bill that you received from the hospital? And the responses did not come back and verify the information.
Thank you.
Doctor?
Yeah, so just really quick, I have nothing against mutual assurance. If they service 125,000 lives, like Mr. Looney says, well, they must know what they're doing. But, Mr. Springston, what drawbacks are there in tabling this until the 18th? Are there any disadvantages? Can we wait till the 18th?
Only disadvantage I know of is depending on what the board votes on and how they vote on this, and the time period that it takes to, if it votes for, the time that it would take to put everything together to put a new plan together for the employees. I think that was the reasoning why Mr. Whittemore and when Mr. Penley asked that we go out for RFPs, that he start the process in April. And so it would have plenty of time to make that transition if there was a change.
So what you're saying is if we postpone it to the 18th and it gets voted down, then we'll be pressured to go for new RFQs, is that correct? Is it, or did I misunderstand you? RFPs. It would be pressured, but it would still be doable.
What is that time period, Mr. Whittemore, were we looking at? But now, and if I'm not mistaken also, that the consultant would not be here during that month or during that week of the 18th to make any type of representation also. Am I correct?
I'm sorry, can you restate that, Mr. Springs? I apologize. Mr. Fuller had a good point.
Okay. Just looking at that time frame, he was asking if this was postponed, what would be the problems?
Well, Mr. Fuller alluded and made a good point regarding payroll. All these changes, modifications have to go into effect the payroll run. Again, anything in terms of the enrollment, you know, that was the purpose for the timeline. We were pushed back once before based on the consultant issue. To be thrown back again.
Mr. Cortez?
Yep. No, we've been here already a couple hours, but I don't think in the time that we've been here, I actually heard what the discount was that Mutual was offering. I think I might have heard it in the tape of the committee meeting. I'm not exactly sure. If you guys can, Mr. Springston, Mr. Whittemore, Mr. Looney, anybody can tell me what the discount is that Mutual is offering.
The Mutual is a third-party administrator.
Sorry?
Mutual Assurance is the third-party administrator. The discount process is coming from the Texas True Choice PPO network.
Well, what is that discount?
That discount itself, the discount based on the hospital savings and everything else is 57%.
57.
Does not include the reductions in the plan based on ineligible or benefits payable under the plan, which can amount to anywhere from 18 to 25% differential.
Say that one more time.
Discount of $100. Okay, if you take all of the benefits out first and apply the discount and apply the percentage, then your discount is substantially greater than if you take the discount off of the first dollar. So the 57% does not take into consideration the plan benefits that are paid under the plan. So the plan benefits don't come out of that calculation for that 57%.
Then what would the true number be? If you
57%.
Give or take 18%, is that what you said?
No.
No, I mean,
57%, if you have $100, you take a 57% discount, you've got a $43 payment against that. If you then take the excess off of that for benefits, that drops down to a considerably lower payment. You measure that against the $100, and your discount comes out to be 75, 80%, whatever it happens to be.
no,
So the discount process is 57%.
10%. Okay. On your memorandum, you said that the 4 finalists were offered an opportunity to submit best and final offer for their services. When you evaluated the proposals using the following criteria, and on here it says vendor negotiated verifiable discounts with provider. All of these discounts have been verified?
I got the verification on the discounts from directly from the hospitals and comparison with the information I got from the different vendors.
This is current moving forward. We're not going to anticipate any change in these rates. I mean, if they've been verified, I'm assuming that moving forward,
The contract year that the verification was for the next plan year.
which would be from what time frame to what time frame?
October through the end of September next year.
Okay, so we're for sure at least guaranteed that price structure till September 31st, 2010.
Right.
Ms. Peña?
Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, we were talking, this is Mr. Looney, you made a comment in reference to the, let me take my time because I get these two words confused and they make a big difference. Disease members.
I'm sorry?
You made a comment about being charged for a diseased member.
Disease member, yes, ma'am.
This current contract or the insurance that we have, the company we want to go will not do that?
No, they have a full disease management person on staff on site.
How much is that part of, is that being
Part of the
paid for
bid-
as part of
it's
the contract?
It's part of the bid contract.
Okay, that probably explains why it's high, because we're already paying for that, but they're just bringing them in. Am I correct? Because nothing's free, Mr. Looney, right? No one gets anything for free. We just balance it out one way or another. My question is, okay, you answered the discounts, but this person that's going to come on, are they going to be available to us here at the main office? Are they going to be traveling around the schools? How are they going to come in contact with our employees to make a difference? Do you have the details?
Don't have the details other than the fact that they will have an active person on site that will be given information and notification of anybody that falls into the categories that require disease management, and they will seek them out and help them in that process.
And that's a guarantee.
Contract.
Okay.
Ms. Peña, let me ask Mr. Whittemore. Is he here? I believe that was answered at the Insurance Committee hearings presentation. Yes.
President Aguilar, Interim Superintendent Springton, members of the board. Ms. Peña, recently, since we have been having some of these meetings, administration has started the process to incorporate and move wellness, that area, under the direction of employee benefits. So in coordination with that, with the wellness person there, the program that they are implementing, we plan on really getting a full-blown wellness disease management program implemented right away. Set up a strategic plan, a committee just to address that area.
Okay. Well, here's my question. Well, I know that there's the plan that Dr. Escobedo talked about, that no one's made any changes. I've never been seen it. So I know on the risk of people saying, I want a copy of it on a disc.
Absolutely, yes, ma'am, you can have it.
And we have that way, and some people say, well, you know how many pages that is? Well, sometimes you're at home watching TV that means nothing. You can sit there and get on the computer and read something
ma'am.
that means something.
And it is available on our website right now.
The whole plan.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Absolutely.
then
We've implemented that from the very beginning because we wanted to know and educate the employees as to what benefits they have available. And this was, and I will get Dr. Escobedo's concern on the date.
Mr. Whittemore, it's complete. It's not
Oh, ma'am, it is
cut
complete.
back, or
And
it's every little detail that we have on contract as far as the insurance plan is on there, not something that was left out and say, well, we didn't put that in. When I see it, that's it. There's nothing else.
It is, to the best of my knowledge, the district approved adopted plan with the current modifications as made with HealthSmart, myself, and the previous insurance consultant. Yes, ma'am. And all three copies, the core plan, the high plan, the state plan.
Excellent. Then I will get it from there. Then no.
Yes, ma'am,
bother, give it to
absolutely.
me.
And I will forward you a copy just in case tomorrow.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Looney, I'm sorry, thank you. Mr. Looney, I had another question for you. Have you looked into what the cost is going to be if we change from HealthSmart to the company that you're recommending?
Yes.
How much is that going to be?
That's estimated to be $129,000 for the runoff expenses in the claims administration portion of it.
I'm sorry, $129,000. Is that going to be paid by the district, or is the TPA going to incur that cost?
The district incurs that cost as a runoff expense. And that compares to if HealthSmart were to pay it at $900,000.
Explain the difference. I don't know. What do you mean by that?
Incurred claims as of today. Incurred claims as of today have to be paid after the end of the contract period. The current insurance company, if they, HealthSmart, pays those claims and runs those claims off, their estimation of the expense to do that is $900,000+. Mutual Assurance will take over responsibility of paying those claims for $129,000.
They gave you a flat rate fee, or that's an estimate?
It's a fee based on potentially receiving 22,000 claims during the first year, plan year, and it's a fee. I believe, I don't remember, it's $14 or something. I can't remember what it was, but it came out to $129,000. That was factored into the cost analysis.
Okay. That factors into your total savings analysis.
It's factored into the total cost analysis.
Yeah, I just have one one final thing, Mr. Springston. You know, in going over Mr. Looney's memo on page 5, he has a bullet point on here that says, "I am told that HR department is overwhelmed with employee service calls and walk-ins with claim issues. Not being in the system, claims not being paid, surgeries not being approved, never receiving insurance card, on-site representative fewer than 2 hours a week." I know that back, you know, in February there was a report given to the board, but none of these things were ever brought up to us, that there were people not receiving insurance card, or their surgeries weren't approved, or that claims weren't being paid. I guess my point to you is, time after time, every time there was this issue brought up about health care, one of the big things that I would always ask for was that the claims were paid timely, and they kept representing to us that they were. You know, my point in bringing this up to you is, you know, if there's an issue with these type of with services provided by a vendor, you know, bring them to the board. I mean, this is something that I would have liked to have known prior to this memo landing, you know, in our hands. And you know, and I also know that given your new interim capacity, that some of this stuff, you know, is just also kind of falling in line with you as well. But you know, moving forward, I would just suggest that if there's any problems with whatever healthcare TPA or providers that we have out there, you know, bring these issues to the board, because this is something that I would have liked to have known prior than Mr. Looney's email. So.
Yes. You want to go? Go ahead,
Yes,
Doctor.
you know, just following up to what Mr. Cortez says, that's my concern with this memo, that a lot of this information is contrary to what I felt I was being led to believe. That's why I'm surprised to read a lot of this. And as there's discussion going on, I see people in the audience shaking their head no, which makes me wonder, okay, who's misleading who? Why is someone saying yes and someone saying no? I have very strong concerns, and that's why I continue with my plead of postponing this at least till the 18th, so we have more time to really. There's got to be a rebut to this. I cannot just read this and accept it as face value. Not with so many people in the audience doing this, and not after, like I said, meeting after meeting. I felt that I was being led to believe that the customer service was there, that the claims were being paid, and now here I'm reading that the HR department is overwhelmed, that there's a blatant disregard or overall negative, no confidence. Comments like that are very, very, very disturbing to me. I really am not ready to approve this today. I continue with my plea to postpone this.
Thank you, Dr. Escobedo, but let me go on somewhere. I concur with Dr. Escobedo, and obviously we've all shared our concerns and how good we feel about moving on, but you know that I feel that on this one item we have gone from a political to a criminal if we just jump into it. I really do. And gentlemen, believe me, I have read these documents over and over and over. I was here at the last insurance committee meeting. It was Mr. Colunga, Mr. Sayas, and Dr. Escobedo and Mr. Aguilar. Obviously, two of you were not here to even hear the presentation. I've heard that mutual insurance has, I think, 125 lives. I do not agree to that because I've already looked into it, and I'm not going to make the comment, but I'm just going to leave it as that. Why all these issues and concerns that are automatically floating out of underneath the water, why weren't they brought up to our attention before? Why now, when we changed this consultant, and there's really nothing really basic and solid and concrete to say, even why he didn't even recommend the other two, or what did he find so attractive from mutual insurance to recommend them? They're just bashing this other company left and right, and we're not even giving the company the opportunity to defend themselves. Now, I don't know if the company is here. Is there a company member here? Sir, could you please stand up? And I'm gonna put you on the spot.
It's out of order, ma'am. It's out of order.
Well, I can't ask him a question.
That's out of order.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask it to counsel. You know, we have lawsuits left and right, Mr. Saldana. Correct?
I'm not quite sure what you
We
mean
have
left and
many
right.
lawsuits pending that this district needs to take care of.
There are some lawsuits pending,
Pending.
yes.
Okay. My question to you is, if we do not do the right thing, I am sure that this company has their own their own attorneys that represent the insurance company, and they will come back at us if we do not do the right thing. That's why we are so focused on the issues that we received in this package. And if we are trying to ask for 7 or 10 more days, obviously the last time that this company signed up the employees, it was done within 2 weeks, 3 weeks max. Mr. Whittemore, how long did it take for this HealthSmart to sign up the staff?
Again, it took 2 to 3 weeks by the time
2
we
to
got
3
everything
weeks.
in.
Okay, 2 to 3 weeks. That's all I needed. Just 2 to 3 weeks. That was fine. Okay, so obviously we're being told that there's no time, Mr. Saldana. And you as a council, I'm asking you, would you think that a company like this, that we're not even giving them time to rebuttal, you don't think they're going to go and talk to their attorneys and come after us?
Ma'am, I think that would be an inappropriate question for me to answer. Okay, that would be asking for me to speculate on what is in the mind of the, not only the incumbent, but the other individual companies that may have been involved. And so I think it's an inappropriate question, and it would be inappropriate for me to answer it because it would be strictly speculative.
Okay, let me tell you one thing. When all the other issues came around this board, we knew what was coming. We knew what to expect. We knew the legal issues, and you know what? I feel the same way about this one. I really do, and I don't know how Ms. Peña feels about it. She was not here to even view the companies to make their presentations. Now, Mr. Cortez was not even here either. But we're all here sitting down trying to make a decision when I don't have the third quarter report, which I think it's very unfair. I got the second quarter report just like about a week ago, which, Mr. President, I think that the numbers have a lot to say on a contract like this. We need to go over those numbers. And let me tell you, it's not fair, it's not right. I foresee going, to the next level if we don't do the right thing, and I am tired of wasting taxpayers' dollars just because we don't sit down, sit back, take our time to make the right decision and the right move.
And I think that's what we're doing here, doing the right thing, Mrs. Garcia. This is why the administration have gone over this process. This is why the administration is making a recommendation, unless otherwise, you might say.
Mr.
Hold on, let me explain something, ma'am. When you talk, I'll listen.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. The thing is this, I'm trying to say that the administration has made a recommendation. And that's the reason we're based on today. Now, if they don't, it said this is not the best value, whatever it is for the district, I can see that. And this is what we look here at. And now, we're not here to make accusations or asking our legal things, whatnot. We're here for one thing. Either we vote for it or we don't. And if we don't, then we go to the next step. Now, one already has been made that to table this, is vote it down, they will continue the discussion. So all I need to do is, do I have another motion? And that's all I need to do. Now, and we worry from that because we can be here all afternoon. And I don't mind here because, I don't do anything, I'm retired. But the fact...
Exactly.
So, but
Then don't
it still reminds that we're going over and over, and then we bring one allegation that we counterpart, and we can have all kinds of things, and why members did not report to the insurance committee. Well, that is their right to vote as they please. I cannot force them to go to any committee or come to the board meetings. So whether they voted up and down doesn't make it a difference. I hope that when they do it, I hope they're doing the right thing. And if there's any allegations of something wrong or the FBI, whatever it is, Ms. Garcia, why don't you bring a written charge at the next board meeting and guarantee you the board will act on it? Because to me, when we're accusing our personnel, administration, I have a problem with that. I trust my administration. I don't, and I really, I think there's a lot of integrity. Now, if we question their integrity, I have a problem with it. So unless we ourselves here, and even the board members, I'm a board member, if you think I'm doing something wrong, by golly, put it in black and white. Or any for that member. Unless any board member in here is saying, speak out now, because I mean, we can go on forever and ever. So I'd like to entertain a motion.
I have a last question on the agent of record. Agent of record, sir.
All right, go ahead.
Mr. Looney, on the agent of record, you're recommending an agent of record. How much is it costing us to have this agent of record?
The proposal that was prepared for the district had an agent assigned to the proposal that was made. The fee was $1.75 per employee per month. That is included in the information that I provided to you.
Mr. President?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You know, we all have very valid points, and I think we're all trying to do the right thing. But procedurally speaking, I learned that word from Mr. Zayas, Mr. Saldana. Would it be appropriate for me to, again, make a motion to postpone this unto the 18th?
No, it would not be appropriate. It would have to be brought back by one of the prevailing parties.
So can somebody else make a motion to table?
Mr. Colunga, Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Zayas, or Mr. Cortez.
Thank you.
I'd still like to entertain a motion.
Mr. President,
Mr. Colungas.
I move to approve the TPA services as recommended by administration.
Been a motion to approve the third-party administrators insurance carrier as recommended by the administration. Been moved by Mr. Colunga. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Being second by Mr. Sides? Mr. Sides. All right, being second by Mr. Sides. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Thank you very much. Mr. Announcement, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I would like to tell the EIC, Employees Insurance Committee, that I do want to sit back and work with you with that set of bylaws and the things that we had talked about by moving wellness into the insurance department so that we can work with the different prospects that we can do to work with our wellness. And also remind everyone that tomorrow we do have our our new teachers coming back, and we have in-service, and we have our dinner tomorrow night at 5:30. Thank you.
Mr. Aguilar. Mr. Aguilar.
Yes, sir.
I would like to address the chair.
We're out of order, sir.
You are the chair, sir.
Sir,
I'm not
it's out of order.
I'm not addressing the board. I'm addressing the chair.
I'm sorry, sir.
This is concerning the agenda, sir. So
Sorry,
it's
sir.
not about the business of insurance, and I
appreciate
think I
that,
have a
sir.
right to question.
Thank you very much, sir. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Second. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed?
This is an illegal meeting for the record.
Get ready.